Chapter 387. 9 Dragons Stomping the Sky. Lu Ming did not want to waste time with him, and he immediately executed the 9 dragons stomping the sky steps. Boom! There was a loud explosion and the burly young man's body slid back 1,000 meters. Along the way, there was a deep gully. His body shook and he spat out a mouthful of blood. Sizzle, the sound of people sucking in cold air could be heard. The geniuses of Flying Tiger Mountain Range looked at Lu Ming in shock. It was unbelievable that he could injure the burly young man with just one move when he was only a martial ancestor realm level 5 martial ancestor. The long-armed young man was shocked at first. Then, a cold killing intent flashed in his eyes. I never thought that Cloud Emperor Mountain Range would have such a demonic genius like you. I'm afraid Jian Fengyun is no match for you. Alright, I'll kill you before you rise. Otherwise, you'll be a threat to Flying Tiger Mountain Range in the future. The long-armed young man said coldly. Bam! As soon as he finished speaking, he threw himself at Lu Ming like a cannonball and threw out a punch. The punch was terrifying and it was much more powerful than the burly young man's. 9 dragons stomping the sky. Lu Ming executed the 9 dragons stomping the sky steps and took a step forward. Boom! There was a loud explosion and Lu Ming's 9 dragons stomping the sky steps was blocked. At the same time, a powerful force surged and Lu Ming was pushed back. Advanced Martial Ancestor Realm Level 7 Cultivation. What a powerful force! Lu Ming's heart trembled. Roar! There was a loud roar and a majestic giant ape appeared above the long-armed young man's head. There were 5 silver chakras on the giant ape's body. Level 5 King Class Bloodline, Steel Raging Ape. Ape King Divine Fist. The long-armed young man roared and threw out another punch. The fist radiance was like a giant ape's fist and it flew toward Lu Ming. Lu Ming's face turned grave. This person was definitely a triple battle genius and he was no weaker than Jian Fengyun. Heaven Palm. Lu Ming executed his most powerful move without hesitation. The Heaven Palm print formed and collided with the Ape King Divine Fist. An earth-shattering boom rang out, and everything within a radius of tens of miles shook violently. The fist and palm collided, forming a terrifying hurricane that swept across the sky and earth. Some of the weaker youths in the Soaring Tiger Mountain Range were swept away by the hurricane and were forced to retreat. Boom! After the loud noise, a figure flew backward rapidly. It was Lu Ming. He flew several thousand meters away and stood in the air with a trace of blood at the corner of his mouth. The long-armed young man was too powerful. His cultivation had reached the late 7th level of the martial arts Grandmaster realm, which was more than 2 levels higher than Lu Ming's. In addition, he was a 3-fight genius, so he was more than 5 levels higher than Lu Ming. Lu Ming had not reached the level of a 5-battle genius, so how could he be a match for him? He's still not dead? Little did he know that the long-armed young man's heart was in turmoil. Lu Ming's battle prowess shocked him until his hair stood on end. He had also been to those big areas before. However, even in a large region, there was no such terrifying genius. Not to mention anything else, he had only heard of the 4th battle genius, but had never seen one. It was obvious that Lu Ming had surpassed the 4th battle genius. Die, he must die. The long-armed young man roared in his heart and yelled, I've already injured him. Let's attack together, we can't let him leave alive. Having said that, he hurriedly attacked Lu Ming. Kill! The other cultivators of the Soaring Tiger Mountain Range yelled as they attacked at the same time, resulting in a shocking scene. These young men were the strongest cultivators of the Soaring Tiger Mountain Range. It was as if all the geniuses on the monarch ranking were attacking at the same time. How terrifying was the scene! I'm too lazy to play with you. Lu Ming turned around and left with the 9 dragons heaven-stomping steps. In the next instant, he was 10 miles away. What a joke! Lu Ming was not stupid to fight with so many people, including a long-armed young man. Since he was no match for them, why not retreat for the time being? Besides, Lu Ming already had a plan in mind. Chase! The long-armed young man yelled, but their speed was no match for Lu Ming's. In a few moments, Lu Ming was nowhere to be seen. Damn it! The long-armed young man cursed. Let's go back. We must get the level 5 spiritual herbs in the valley. The long-armed young man yelled. Then, the group of cultivators of the soaring Tiger Mountain Range returned to the valley to clear out the beasts inside. Lu Ming covered 10 miles in one step. He was very fast. Soon, he arrived outside a valley. There was a giant toad that was half a step away from the Beast King realm in the valley. That's right. Lu Ming came here to borrow the toad's strength. He wanted to use the toad's strength to disrupt the battle and seize the opportunity to snatch the spiritual herbs in the valley. Based on the medicinal fragrance that the spirit medicine gave off, Lu Ming speculated that it was very likely a level 5 spirit medicine. A level 4 spiritual herb definitely did not have such a fragrance. A level 5 spiritual herb. Lu Ming was excited at the thought of it. A level 5 spiritual herb was a rare treasure that even a beast king would want. If he had a level 5 spiritual herb, Lu Ming could cultivate the myriad spirit battle body and push his physical body to level 6. After pondering for a while, Lu Ming rushed into the valley. Croak! After a while, an earth-shattering cry was heard, and the grass and trees shook. Then, Lu Ming rushed out of the valley as if his butt was on fire. Croak! A giant toad the size of a mountain rushed out of the valley and chased after Lu Ming. Lu Ming used the 9 dragons' heaven stomping steps and appeared 10 miles away in an instant. Croak! The giant toad exerted its strength with its 4 limbs and its enormous body rushed into the sky. It crossed 7 to 8 miles in an instant and landed heavily on the ground. Boom! Smoke and dust filled the air and the ground cracked. Then, the giant toad rushed out of the smoke and dust again and pounced on Lu Ming. Lu Ming took another step forward, causing the giant toad to pounce on nothing. A man and a toad, one chasing and one escaping, were dozens of miles away in the blink of an eye. When the giant toad stopped and did not want to give chase, Lu Ming stopped as well and shot it. The giant toad was furious and continued to chase after Lu Ming. Soon, Lu Ming came to the giant valley again. Lu Ming did not stop at all. He dashed toward the canyon directly. Who is it? With a loud shout, a few figures rushed out from below. One of them was the burly young man who was injured by Lu Ming. You again? You dare to come again? You're courting death. The burly young man roared when he saw Lu Ming. Whoosh! Whoosh! A dozen figures rushed out from below. Boy, I won't let you go this time. The long-armed young man also rushed out. I brought you a gift. Don't thank me. Lu Ming smiled. What? The long-armed young man and the others were stunned. Croak! A loud roar came from afar. Then, they saw a mountain-like figure rushing over from afar. That's... Ah! Oh no, retreat! The long-armed young man's expression changed drastically and he quickly retreated. Lu Ming smiled and dashed into the house. However, a few people in the flying Tiger Mountain Range did not react in time and were directly crushed by the giant toad. Boom! Chapter 388. Whoosh! Then, the giant toad's crimson tongue shot out. 5 or 6 geniuses from the flying Tiger Mountain Range were caught by the tongue. Help me! 5 or 6 young men screamed in horror. The next moment, the giant toad's tongue retracted back into its mouth and stopped screaming. Lu Ming took the opportunity to rush into the canyon. Damn it, beast! Don't even think about it. The long-armed young man roared and rushed into the canyon. The rest of the people fled in all directions. Some ran out of the canyon and some ran into the canyon. Croak! The giant toad cried and rushed into the canyon. Along the way, Lu Ming saw many corpses of demonic beasts. Wherever there were spiritual herbs, there would be powerful demonic beasts guarding it. The canyon was very wide and deep. It was formed by two huge mountains. The deeper he went, the stronger the fragrance of the herbs. Roar! Roar! Suddenly, a dozen demonic beasts rushed out of the canyon. These demonic beasts were very powerful. The weakest of them was Class 8 LV4. 7 or 8 of them were Class 9 LV4. 2 of them were even at the peak of Class 9 LV4. They were only one step away from becoming a half-step monster king. These were the most powerful demonic beasts in the canyon. The long-armed young man and the others were afraid of these demonic beasts and did not rush in. Whoosh! Lu Ming took a step forward. His figure suddenly soared into the sky and appeared high in the sky. Then, he took another step forward. This time, his target was the deeper part of the canyon. Roar! Some demonic beasts roared and tried to stop Lu Ming, but he was too fast. They could not stop him in time. At this moment, the giant toad rushed in again. Croak! The giant toad roared and attacked both humans and demonic beasts. Suddenly, the giant toad and the dozen powerful demonic beasts were engaged in a chaotic battle. Damn it! Damn it! The long-armed young man roared. The people from the Flying Tiger mountain range were the first to be affected by the demonic beasts on both sides. A few more people were killed by the demonic beasts. The spiritual herbs are mine. The long-armed young man roared and used all his strength to rush out of the encirclement and into the depths of the canyon. At this moment, Lu Ming had already rushed into the depths of the canyon. Seeing the scene in front of him, Lu Ming was shocked, and then he was overjoyed. What appeared before his eyes was actually a medicinal field. Yes, even though an unknown amount of time had passed, one could still vaguely see that it was a medicinal field. There were 7 or 8 stalks of spiritual herbs growing in the medicinal field. Every stalk of spiritual medicine flickered with a faint spiritual glow, and every stalk emitted a rich medicinal fragrance. That's a 10,000-year-old blood ginseng and a phoenix-shaped Ganoderma. Lu Ming saw a few that he recognized at a glance. The 10,000-year blood ginseng was as thick as a child's arm. Its entire body was blood red, and it flickered with a blood-red light. It was obviously extraordinary. There was also a phoenix-shaped Lingji mushroom, which actually looked like a phoenix. It was vivid and lifelike, and its medicinal fragrance was extremely rich. These 2 spirit herbs were both level 5 spirit herbs. Furthermore, it looked like it had been around for a long time, and its medicinal power was extremely strong. There were a few other herbs that Lu Ming didn't recognize, but they didn't look any worse than the 10,000-year blood ginseng and the phoenix-shaped Lingji mushroom. They were definitely level 5 spiritual herbs. Upper level 5. These spirit herbs are definitely upper level 5 spiritual herbs. Even a martial king would drool if he saw them. Lu Ming's eyes were shining. With these spirit herbs, my physical body will be able to break through to level 6. Wait a minute, what's that? Suddenly, Lu Ming's gaze fell on a small tree in the depths of the medicinal field. This small tree was not tall, only a little more than a meter tall. There was not a single leaf on the branches, but there were 9 fist-sized fruits hanging from it. The fruits were bright red and sparkling. Around the fruits, there was a dense fiery red mist, as if a flame was burning and jumping. Could this be the red cinnabar fruit? Lu Ming's eyes suddenly widened, and he couldn't hide the crazy joy in his eyes. The red cinnabar fruit was a rare treasure of heaven and earth. It was said that if a martial arts grandmaster consumed it, his cultivation would rapidly increase without any side effects. God is helping me. With the red cinnabar fruit, my cultivation will increase by a level. Lu Ming was overjoyed. Whoosh! At that moment, the long-armed young man was flying towards him. Then, his eyes flashed. He had obviously seen the spirit herbs and the red cinnabar fruit in the medicinal field. Red cinnabar fruit, that's the red cinnabar fruit. With these 9 red cinnabar fruits, my cultivation will definitely reach level 8 or even level 9 martial arts grandmaster. Then, I won't have to be afraid of anyone in the Dongming ancient battlefield. The long-armed young man roared in his heart. But in the next moment, his face became ferocious and he shouted, "Bastard, what are you doing? These spirit herbs are mine." Lu Ming pounced on the spirit herbs. "Is there something wrong with this guy's head?" Hearing the long-armed young man's words, Lu Ming was speechless and twitched his lips. With a wave of his hand, a vast amount of true qi surged out and turned into true qi shovels that dug out the 7 spirit herbs. Lu Ming waved his hand again and the spirit herbs were all stored in the Temple of Paragon. Then, Lu Ming pounced on the 9 red cinnabar fruits. "Bastard, stop it!" The long-armed young man's eyes turned red and he roared in a frenzy as he pounced on Lu Ming. Heaven's palm! Lu Ming struck out with his palm. This time, Lu Ming unleashed his strongest combat strength. Great Ape King's divine fist. The long-armed young man punched out. Boom! There was a terrifying vibration and the heaven's palm was pierced through. However, the long-armed young man's body was stopped for a moment. Whoosh! Lu Ming was sent flying by the force of the fist and he happened to pass by the red cinnabar fruit. With a wave of his hand, Lu Ming kept the 9 red cinnabar fruits in the Temple of Paragon. Bam! Lu Ming's body slammed into the wall of the valley. His face turned pale and he spat out a mouthful of blood. Hand over the spirit herbs and the red cinnabar fruits. The long-armed young man roared. Idiot! Lu Ming sneered and stepped into the sky. In an instant, he appeared in the sky. Then, he took another step and flew 10 miles away. Bastard! Bastard! Stop right there! The long-armed young man shouted hysterically. This was originally his opportunity. If he could use the red cinnabar fruit to increase his cultivation, he could use it as a foundation to fight for more resources. But now, it was all taken away by Lu Ming. Lu Ming ignored him and executed the 9 dragons' heaven-stomping steps. In the blink of an eye, he disappeared into the horizon without a trace. Damn it! Damn it! When I get out of the Dongming ancient battlefield, I'll lead a group of experts to the Cloud Emperor mountain range to find you and your family. I'll kill them all. The long-armed young man's eyes flashed with hatred. Then, he gritted his teeth and pounced to save the other geniuses in the soaring Tiger Mountain range. Lu Ming was as fast as lightning. Soon, he arrived at a quiet place 10,000 miles away. With a thought, he appeared in the Temple of Paragon. Now, let's start cultivating the myriad spirit battle body. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. He picked up the 10,000-year blood ginseng and started cultivating the myriad spirit battle body. Soon, the 10,000-year blood ginseng turned into wisps of myriad spirit chi and entered Lu Ming's body. Chapter 389. The effects of the level 5 superior grade elixir were too strong and rich. It constantly transformed into the aura of all spirits, nourishing Lu Ming's physical body. Lu Ming's physical body was glowing, sparkling and dazzling. His qi and blood were full of vitality. A day later, the 10,000-year blood ginseng was completely refined. At this moment, Lu Ming's body trembled and his bones emitted crisp sounds. His muscles were as taut as steel wires, making buzzing sounds. His body was breaking through the bottleneck. After half a day, the strange phenomenon disappeared and Lu Ming opened his eyes. Rank 6 lower tier physical body. Lu Ming's eyes shone brightly and he was delighted. After refining the upper LV5 spiritual medicine, Lu Ming's body had finally broken through. 6th grade physical body. Even some martial king realm warriors had to specially cultivate their physical bodies in order to achieve such a level. What incredible power! Given his current fleshly body, combined with his jinqi, how strong would he be? With a thought, Lu Ming appeared outside the Temple of Paragon. It was already dusk of the second day. I was safe last night. I was so stupid. I couldn't enter the Temple of Paragon because it was in danger. As long as I could enter the Temple of Paragon before night fell, I wouldn't have to dodge the attacks of the spirits. Lu Ming was stunned. He scolded himself for being stupid. Why did he have to fight with the spirits every night when he had the Temple of Paragon? Let's test my strength first. The demon-suppressing spear appeared in Lu Ming's hand. He shook the spear and struck the ground. Boom! There was a loud boom and the ground shook violently. The ground cracked and debris flew. A spear-shaped trench appeared on the ground and extended forward. It extended for more than 200 meters before it stopped. A 10-meter deep and 200-meter long trench appeared on the ground. The power of a casual attack has increased a lot. Lu Ming was delighted. The attack just now was purely a combination of genuine qi and physical strength. He didn't use any martial skills or the power of wind and fire. Try something else. Next, Lu Ming added the power of wind and fire and started experimenting. After that, he continued to experiment with the 9 dragons ascending heaven steps and the heavenly path palm. It seems like my strongest battle prowess hasn't improved by much. I can't reach the level of a battle 5 genius. After a round of experiments, Lu Ming came to a conclusion. When using the 9 dragons heaven stomping steps, the impact on his physical body was quite significant. The breakthrough of his physical body had greatly increased the power of the 9 dragons heaven stomping steps, but it still did not surpass the heavenly law palm, only close to the power of the heavenly law palm. On the other hand, the might of the heavens path palm did not increase by much. The power of the heavenly law palm was mainly due to the mysterious heavenly law aura. It did not have much to do with the physical body. Thus, the breakthrough of his physical body did not bring much improvement to the heavens path palm. However, that didn't mean that Lu Ming's battle prowess didn't increase. His basic battle prowess had increased by a large margin, and the power of his ordinary martial skills had increased by a large margin. It could be said that Lu Ming didn't need to use the 9 dragons heaven stomping steps and the heavens path palm. He mainly added the power of wind and fire, and his casual attack could reach or even surpass the power of a battle 4 genius. Moreover, this was a battle that could last for a long time, unlike the heavens path palm, which consumed a lot of energy. Although he didn't reach the level of a battle 5 genius, Lu Ming was very satisfied. Continue to improve my physical body. In the next moment, Lu Ming returned to the Temple of Paragon and took out a level 5 spiritual medicine. He began to convert it into all-spirit qi to improve his physical body. However, the energy required to improve his physical body to level 6 was too much. It was more than 10 times the energy required for a level 5 physical body. A day later, after Lu Ming had refined the spiritual medicine, his physical body had only improved a little. He didn't know how far he was from level 6 grade achievement. Continue. Continue. Lu Ming continued to refine the spiritual medicine. Another 5 days passed and the remaining 5 spiritual medicine were all refined. Lu Ming's physical body had only reached the peak of level 6 small achievement and had not broken through to level 6 great achievement. The energy required is too terrifying. I don't know how much more energy I need to cultivate to level 7 physical body. Forget it, continue to refine those low-level spiritual medicine as well. After that, Lu Ming waved his hand and a large pile of spiritual medicine appeared in front of him. It was like a small mountain. There were level 2, level 3 and level 4 spiritual medicine. They were all obtained from the storage rings of others he had killed. Refine. A strange aura appeared in Lu Ming's hands and enveloped a few hundred spiritual medicine. These spiritual medicine were too weak and couldn't be compared to level 5 spiritual medicine. Therefore, Lu Ming planned to refine a few hundred spiritual medicine at once. Buzz! Lu Ming operated the 1,000-spirit battle body technique. Some spiritual medicine shook and turned into ashes. The medicinal efficacy was absorbed by Lu Ming and transformed into 1,000-spirit qi, nourishing Lu Ming's physical body. In this way, Lu Ming continued to refine the spiritual medicine. Time flew and another 10 days passed. In these 10 days, Lu Ming had refined no less than 10,000 spiritual medicine of all levels. He had swept away all the spiritual medicine accumulated during this period. At this time, Lu Ming's physical body had reached the peak of level 6 grade achievement and was still a little bit away from level 6 grade achievement. This made Lu Ming sigh. Cultivating the physical body really burned money. The value of so many spiritual medicine was simply unimaginable. However, the improvement of the physical body was not very great. Well, the physical body has reached this point. I'll stop for a while. Now, I'll improve my cultivation. Lu Ming's eyes flickered and he took out a red fruit. The 9 dragons' bloodline swallowed it and refined it to improve his cultivation. The red fruit was indeed an invaluable treasure to improve one's cultivation. Its energy was extremely abundant and it continuously refined genuine qi. Lu Ming's cultivation rose rapidly. Not long after, Lu Ming reached the late stage of martial ancestor realm late realm and continued to improve. 3 days later, all 9 red fruits were refined. Lu Ming's cultivation broke through to the early stage of martial ancestor realm early realm martial ancestor realm. 9 red fruits. If it were someone else, they would be able to improve their cultivation by 2 levels. However, for me, it's not even 1 level. Lu Ming smiled wryly. Every time he improved, he would need a lot of energy. However, there was an advantage. The cultivation that the red fruits increased was extremely pure and his foundation was stable. Lu Ming could continue to devour the blood essence of beasts to improve his cultivation. He did not need to spend time to strengthen his foundation. I've been in seclusion for more than 20 days. It's time to go out for a walk. Thinking of this, Suemo left the Temple of Paragon. It was still daytime outside. Lu Ming turned into a ray of light and headed west. Next, Lu Ming wandered around during the day to look for opportunities. Before night fell, he entered the Temple of Paragon to comprehend the force and cultivate his martial skills. In the blink of an eye, another 7 days passed. There were not many disturbances during these 7 days. There's a city in front. Lu Ming saw a city in front of him. Lu Ming turned into a ray of light and flew toward the city. This city is huge. Chapter 390. This was considered a big city in the Dongming ancient battlefield. Lu Ming noticed many figures in the air. With a slight movement, Zhang Xian landed in the city. He sensed that there were powerful auras surging in some of the buildings in the city. It was obvious that many young geniuses were cultivating in seclusion. Lu Ming pondered for a moment and then walked toward the place with the most auras. Soon, Lu Ming arrived at the center of the city. There were many people gathered there. Ancient remnant weapon, ancient remnant weapon. I obtained it in a secret place. It still contains a trace of spirituality. I want to exchange it for a piece of meteoric metal. An ancient pill recipe from the Dongming ancient battlefield. It must be a top-quality item. I only want an Earth-class superior martial technique. Take it. Lu Ming heard shouts as soon as he arrived. It was as if he had arrived at a market in the outside world. Lu Ming was stunned for a moment. He then pulled a young girl to the side and asked about it. The young girl was kind enough to give a rough explanation. Lu Ming was enlightened. This was equivalent to a small market. The first 3 months of the D Tian Divine Guard selection were for people to gain experience, find opportunities, and raise their cultivation. During this period, everyone might gain something and obtain some treasures. However, they might not be able to use them. Therefore, in some large cities, many geniuses would gather together and take out treasures that they didn't need to exchange for treasures that others needed. Therefore, there was a small market in front of him. Lu Ming's interest was piqued. He wandered around the place to see if he could find what he needed. There were about 500 to 600 people here. They were shouting non-stop. Moreover, the items they took out were also strange. It was an eye-opener for Lu Ming. However, Lu Ming did not see anything that interested him. Beast, it's you. Suddenly, a furious roar rang out. In the next moment, Lu Ming felt a cold aura shrouding him. Lu Ming quickly turned around and saw a few young men striding toward him. Lu Ming could not help but laugh. Wasn't this the long-armed young man from the Flying Tiger mountain range? They were really enemies on the road. As the saying goes, when enemies meet, their eyes turn red. At this moment, the long-armed young man's eyes were filled with hatred. He glared at Lu Ming and said, "Little bastard, I did not expect to meet you here. This time, I will not let you escape. Also, where are the spiritual herbs? Hurry up and hand them over. Otherwise, you'll die a horrible death." The long-armed young man said sinisterly. "Are you stupid? So many days have passed, and you still have spirit herbs? It's already in my stomach and turned into shit. Do you want it? If you really want it, I still vaguely remember where it is. I can take you there. I just didn't expect your taste to be so heavy," Lu Ming said with a smile. Humiliation, this was a blatant humiliation. The long-armed young man's eyes turned red in an instant. The bloodline in his body burst out, and a violent aura rose up. "Die! Die, beast, die for me!" the long-armed young man roared. Whoosh! Lu Ming soared into the sky and floated in the air, saying, "If you want to fight, come up." Whoosh! The long-armed young man also soared into the sky. Their actions naturally alarmed the others. "That's Flying Ape from the Flying Tiger Mountain Range. He's the strongest person in the Flying Tiger Mountain Range. It's said that he's a triple battle genius. Who's the other person? He dares to fight Flying Ape. Is he also the strongest person in a certain area? I don't know him." The others discussed and stared at the sky with their eyes wide open. In the sky, Lu Ming and the long-armed young man, Flying Ape, stood opposite each other. Whoosh! Whoosh! Suddenly, the two of them moved at the same time. They turned into two streaks of light and charged at each other. Then, they collided in the air like two meteors crashing into each other. Boom! There was an earth-shattering explosion and the two figures retreated quickly. Kill, Great Ape King's Divine Fist! Flying Ape roared again and charged at Lu Ming, throwing out a punch. A terrifying fist light instantly pierced the sky and blasted at Lu Ming. 9 dragons stomping the sky. Lu Ming's figure glowed as he stomped his foot forward. The space around his foot vibrated vigorously, which transformed into a violent force that surged forward. Bang! This time, an even more shocking tremor spread out. The momentum was vast and shocking to the extreme. Whoosh! Following this, a figure flew backward like a meteor. It was Flying Ape. Flying Ape has been defeated, Flying Ape has been defeated. Who exactly is he? How terrifying! Could he be a genius from one of the higher kingdoms? Didn't you notice? His cultivation is only at the early stage of the 6th layer martial ancestor realm, but he was able to defeat Flying Ape. How many battles has he fought? Heavens, I wouldn't have realized it if you didn't mention it. It's true, isn't it too terrifying? Below him, the geniuses inhaled deeply. Flying Ape flew 1,000 meters in the air and stopped in midair. Blood flowed out from his mouth as his eyes were filled with disbelief. Impossible! He let out a roar. He was a genius who had fought 3 battles and was the strongest in the soaring Tiger Mountain Range. Countless geniuses were trash in front of him. He had always been the one to defeat those with higher cultivation, but now, it was Lu Ming who had defeated him. He could not accept it. Nothing is impossible, die. Lu Ming let out a roar as he sprang into the air and appeared above Flying Ape. He looked down from above and took a step forward. Bang! It was as if an ancient godly mountain was crashing down from the sky. Block it! Flying Ape let out a loud roar. At that instant, his body began to expand rapidly. His body was bulky and his arms were thick, making him look like a giant ape. It was a secret technique that could temporarily increase one's combat strength. Devour! Lu Ming controlled the 9 dragons' bloodline and unleashed a powerful devouring force on Flying Ape. Flying Ape's body shuddered as he felt his bloodline and blood essence vibrating, as if they were about to leave his body. His aura dropped instantly. Bang! At that instant, the 9 dragons' sky-stomping steps collided with Flying Ape. Flying Ape let out a cry of agony as his body fell to the ground like a cannonball. There was a large group of ancient houses there. Bang! Flying Ape crashed into the houses, causing the ground to tremble violently. Heaven's Path Palm. Almost at the same time, Lu Ming struck out with his palm. The Heaven's Path Palm condensed and slammed down. Ah! Flying Ape had just rushed out from below when he saw the Heaven's Path Palm coming at him. He immediately let out a cry of horror and despair. He was already injured and was no match for the Heaven's Path Palm. Like a fly, he was suppressed by the Heaven's Path Palm. There was another earth-shattering rumble as a large group of ancient houses were destroyed. Smoke and dust filled the air as gravel flew everywhere. Die! Lu Ming's eyes were cold as he continuously condensed a dozen spears in his hand. They were thrown out by Lu Ming and turned into a dozen lightning bolts that shot downward. Ah! There was a shrill cry, and then there was silence. There were many figures floating in the air above the city. At that moment, they were all stunned and their eyes were filled with shock. Chapter 391. What happened to the Flying Ape? Hundreds of pairs of eyes stared at the ground, waiting for the result. Soon, the dust settled and the scene below was revealed. First, there was a giant palm print that was dozens of meters long and wide. In the huge palm print, the Flying Ape lay there like a dead dog. There were several long spears that were condensed from spiritual chi piercing through his body and nailing him to the ground. The Flying Ape's eyes were wide open and they were filled with indignation. However, he was no longer breathing. He was dead. The Flying Ape had been killed. He was the most powerful person in the area and a genius who had won 3 battles. He had been killed just like that. Everyone gasped and felt a chill run down their spines. Even in large regions and empires, 3 World War III geniuses were extremely rare. They were exceptionally powerful. If such a person did not die, it would not be a problem for him to break through to the Martial King realm in the future. He might even reach a higher realm. However, he had died just like that. Everything was for naught. A general success was built on thousands of bones. Every top powerhouse had stepped on piles of bones and other geniuses' corpses to reach their current heights. At that moment, the other young men who had come with the Flying Ape from the Flying Tiger mountain range were trembling in fear and their faces were pale. They had left secretly. The Flying Ape was already dead. If they stayed, wouldn't they be courting death? Lu Ming could not be bothered with those small fries. He moved and appeared beside the Flying Ape's corpse. He used his true chi to sweep up the storage ring and devour the blood essence. Then, Lu Ming soared into the sky and left. Lu Ming landed in the north of the city. He found a room and walked in. Then, he appeared in the Temple of Paragon. During this period, he had obtained too many storage rings and had not carefully cleaned them. He had only roughly cleaned them and removed the spiritual herbs. As for the spiritual crystals and spiritual weapons, he did not have time to clean them up. During this period, Lu Ming had obtained many storage rings left behind by Martial Ancestor Realm 5, Martial Ancestor Realm and above. There were too many things inside. Lu Ming checked them one by one. There were many lower spiritual crystals, middle spiritual crystals, and even upper spiritual crystals. A middle-grade spiritual crystal was equivalent to 100 lower-grade spiritual crystals. One upper spiritual crystal was equivalent to 100 middle spiritual crystals or 10,000 lower spiritual crystals. Lu Ming put the spirit crystals into several storage rings. Lu Ming didn't count them carefully, but if all the spirit crystals were converted to low-grade spirit crystals, Lu Ming estimated that it would be no less than 1 billion spirit crystals. Yes, 1 billion spirit crystals. During this period of time, Lu Ming had accumulated too many spirit crystals and had not spent them all. Lu Ming calculated that once the Tian Divine Guard selection was over, he would go out and purchase a large amount of demonic beast blood essence to raise the grade of his bloodline. Other than spirit crystals, there were also many spirit weapons. Of course, the spiritual grass had already been refined by Lu Ming. There were also some refining materials, secret manuals, and all kinds of miscellaneous things piled up in several storage rings. However, there wasn't anything too precious, and it wasn't of much help to Lu Ming. After these things were cleaned up, more than a day had passed. Lu Ming then left the Temple of Paragon and strolled on the streets. Swoosh! Swoosh! However, not long after Lu Ming walked on the streets, the sound of something breaking through the air could be heard. Figures flew over and stopped in front of Lu Ming. Lu Ming frowned. These people weren't in the same group, but in 3 groups. It was obvious that they were from 3 different forces. However, what was the meaning of these 3 forces standing in front of him? He had never seen these people before. Brother, please don't misunderstand. I am Han Valley's Han Lu Mu. One of the groups was mostly dressed in snow-white robes. Among them, a young man in his mid-20s cupped his fists and smiled at Lu Ming. Han Valley? Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. Lu Ming had heard of this region before. It was a small region not much bigger than the Cloud Emperor mountain range. Han Lu Mu's aura was extraordinary. He might be the strongest person in the Han Valley. I am Wu Hui from Ming Yen Peak. I am Yi Tiannan from Yen Ke Lake. The other 2 groups of people cupped their fists at Lu Ming. Obviously, these 2 people were the leaders of their respective forces. Ming Yen Peak, Yen Ke Lake. Lu Ming muttered. These 2 regions were also small regions, just like the Han Valley. However, Lu Ming had never interacted with people from these regions. Why were they looking for him? May I know your name? Han Lu Mu smiled. Lu Ming. Lu Ming said. There was nothing to hide about a name. So it's Brother Lu. We have something to discuss with Brother Lu. Can we talk in private? Han Lu Mu said and pointed to the sky. What's the matter? There's no harm in talking here. Lu Ming frowned and said. Brother Lu, this involves an ancient ruin. I'm afraid it's not good to let others know. Yi Tiannan from Yen Ke Lake whispered. Ancient ruin? Lu Ming raised his eyebrows and felt even more strange. Could it be that these people were looking for him to ask for his help? All right. Immediately, Lu Ming nodded and flew into the sky. Han Lu Mu, Yi Tiannan, and Wu Hui also flew into the sky. Lu Ming was not afraid of any tricks. Although Han Lu Mu and the other 2 gave off a strong feeling, they were even stronger than the flying ape. However, Lu Ming was not afraid. Even if the 3 of them joined hands and he was no match for them, it wouldn't be too difficult for him to escape. Speak, why are you looking for me? I don't believe that you guys would be so kind as to find me in an ancient ruin. In the sky, Lu Ming went straight to the point. Brother Lu, don't misunderstand. Because opening the ancient ruin requires 4 keys. The 3 of us each have 1 key, and the 4th key is in Brother Lu's hands. Han Lu Mu smiled. In my hands? Lu Ming was stunned. To be honest, Brother Lu, that key was originally on the flying ape. Since you killed the flying ape and took his storage ring, that key is naturally in Brother Lu's hands. Han Lu Mu smiled. So that's how it is. Lu Ming suddenly understood. Brother Lu, did you see a tiger-shaped, palm-sized key in the flying ape's storage ring? Han Lu Mu asked. Lu Ming's eyes flashed. Then, with a move of his hand, a black, palm-sized, tiger-shaped iron token appeared in his hand. Is it this one? Lu Ming asked. When he was sorting out the items, he did find this iron token in the flying ape's storage ring. However, he didn't know what it was used for, so he threw it aside. Could it be an ancient ruin key? It's this one. Han Lu Mu and the others were overjoyed when they saw it. Then, their hands glowed and a dragon-shaped iron token, a tortoise-shaped iron token, and a phoenix-shaped iron token respectively appeared in their hands. The 4 keys have been gathered. That ancient ruin can finally be opened. Han Lu Mu was overjoyed. Chapter 392. It turned out that they had stumbled upon an ancient ruin. According to speculation, it was the cave of an expert from the Dongming ancient battlefield. However, the cave was covered with inscriptions, making it impossible to enter. Only by gathering all 4 keys could one enter. Previously, including Flying Ape, 3 people had arrived. They had been waiting for Wu Hui from Bright Beauty Peak. Until today, Wu Hui from Bright Beauty Peak had arrived. However, the tiger-shaped key had fallen into Lu Ming's hands. That was why they had come to find Lu Ming. Lu Ming nodded. That made sense. Brother Lu, now that you have the tiger-shaped key, you naturally have a share of the ancient ruin. How about we explore it together? Han Liumu said. Alright, when do we depart? Lu Ming asked. In a few hours, we can depart. Han Liumu and the others were overjoyed. Brother Lu, you can make some preparations. We'll meet outside the city in 3 hours. Yi Tiannan said. Lu Ming nodded. Then, everyone dispersed. Lu Ming casually strolled around and returned to his previous room. He closed his eyes and rested. 3 hours later, his figure flashed and headed outside the city. When he arrived outside the city, he noticed that Han Liumu, Wu Hui, and Yi Tiannan had already arrived. There were a total of 100 people from the 3 forces. And Lu Ming was alone, which made him seem quite special. If Lu Ming had not killed the flying ape in a domineering manner a few days ago and displayed shocking combat abilities, most probably no one would take him seriously. Brother Lu, you're here. Han Liumu was overjoyed. Lu Ming nodded and said, then let's depart. Immediately, more than 100 people rose into the air and flew towards the north. 4 hours later, they had already flown for more than 100,000 miles. The surrounding environment was getting more and more remote. There were mountains and ridges everywhere. After flying for another few thousand miles, a majestic mountain range appeared in front of them. This mountain range was endless, like a sleeping dragon. The group landed at the top of the mountain range. At the foot of the mountain, there was a huge stone door. The stone door was tightly shut. This is the ancient era's ruin. That stone door is the entrance. However, even after using all of our strength, we were unable to break open the stone door by even a tiny bit. We could only use the key to activate the inscriptions on the 4 statues to enter. Han Liumu pointed in front of the stone door. Lu Ming looked in that direction. True enough, he saw 4 statues outside the stone door. The 4 statues were the azure dragon, the white tiger, the vermilion bird, and the black tortoise. It corresponded to their 4 keys. Lu Ming, Han Liumu, Yi Tiannan, and Wu Hui looked at each other and flew forward. Lu Ming arrived in front of the white tiger statue. Then, a metal plate appeared in each of their hands. Open! The 4 of them shouted and activated their true qi. Their true qi poured into the iron plate. The 4 metal plates immediately emitted a hazy radiance. In the next moment, the 4 statues also began to emit light. Inscriptions appeared one after another, flowing with brilliant colors. The glow of the statue and the glow of the 4 iron medallions resonated with each other. Then, the light from the 4 statues gathered together and shot toward the stone door. Crack, crack. When the light hit the stone door, it began to emit cracking sounds and slowly opened. Ha ha ha, the ancient era's ruin has opened. We didn't wait for nothing. At this moment, an excited laugh came from the distant sky. Numerous black figures were rapidly approaching from afar. Not good, the mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. We've been targeted. Han Liumu's face changed. They're from the Serene Demon Palace. Lu Ming's eyes flashed. In the distant sky, the figures that were flying over at high speed were all dressed in black skeleton robes. Wasn't that the uniform of the Serene Devil Hall? Serene Demon Palace, it's the Serene Demon Palace. The geniuses from Hanggu, Radiant Peak, and the other 2 forces exclaimed. Since you opened the ancient era's ruin, I can let you go. Hurry up and get lost. A cold voice came from afar. The people from the Serene Demon Palace were very fast. At first, they were still dozens of miles away, but now, they were close and would arrive soon. Hee hee. Lu Ming sneered and reached out to grab the tiger-shaped key. His figure flashed and rushed toward the stone door like lightning. Who is it? Damn it, how dare you rush in? You're courting death. A furious roar could be heard. It's him. I can see that he killed a few of our junior brothers. One of them sent me an image. It's that brat. A cold voice sounded. Let's rush in too. Han Lu Mu gritted his teeth and rushed toward the stone door. Then, Yi Tiannan and No Return's forces rushed toward the stone door. All of this took a long time to describe, but in fact, it only took a few breaths. Whoosh! Whoosh! When Yi Tiannan and the others rushed through the stone door, more than 100 figures appeared in front of the stone door. They were all experts from the Serene Demon Palace. The person in the lead was slender and had a cold expression. His body exuded a terrifying aura. His aura was several times stronger than the flying ape. Charge! The cold youth ordered. In an instant, more than 100 people from the Serene Demon Palace rushed through the stone door. But once they entered the stone door, they couldn't help but stop. This was because there were 4 paths in front of them. They didn't know where they led. Eldest senior brother, what should we do? A 2-meter-tall young man looked at the cold-looking young man. This cold youth was the strongest expert from the Serene Demon Palace, Yu Feiyu. Split up and chase. Junior brother Feisher, you take some people and chase this path. Junior brother Fei, you take some people and chase this path. Yu Feiyu immediately ordered. Okay, I'll make whoever takes this path regret it. The tall youth shouted coldly and led 20 youths to the leftmost path. There was a path with a white tiger carved on it and they disappeared in the blink of an eye. The others from the Serene Demon Palace also led their people and chased after the 3 paths. Once Lu Ming dashed through the stone door, he dashed toward the leftmost path without hesitation. It was the path with the white tiger engraved on it. The path was very long. After rushing for more than 10 miles, he found something strange. There were a few stone rooms on both sides of the path. Lu Ming walked in and took a look. He was a little disappointed. From these stone rooms, it wasn't difficult to tell that this should be an alchemy room. However, too much time had passed and everything inside had turned to dust. Even the alchemy furnace had decayed and nothing was left. Lu Ming didn't stop and continued to move forward. Suddenly, his body came to an abrupt stop. This was because he felt as if his body had suddenly become many times heavier. It was as if there was an endless pressure acting on his body. There's an inscription array in this area that produces an extremely strong pressure. It's not easy to walk, let alone fly. Lu Ming thought to himself. He tensed his body and circulated his true qi to resist the pressure outside and continued to move forward. However, this greatly reduced Lu Ming's speed. Chapter 393. Lu Ming walked onto the platform and felt a wave of hot air blowing against his face. It was as if he was in a furnace. There was a deep pit in front of the platform and the path ahead was blocked. In the deep pit, scorching heat waves were constantly rising. Lu Ming walked to the edge of the platform and realized that the deep pit was circular and had a diameter of at least 1,000 meters. There were flames at the bottom of the pit. The strange thing was that the flames had 3 colors. The flames danced in the air and were dazzling. Is this the tricolored primordial flame? Lu Ming's eyes flickered. Tricolored primordial flame was a special flame in heaven and earth. It was much more magical than ordinary flames and was much more powerful. There was another platform on the opposite side of the deep pit. There was a passageway in front of the platform that led to an unknown place. Lu Ming furrowed his brows. If he was outside, he would be able to cross the distance of 1,000 meters with a slight sway of his body. But here, he was suppressed by the inscription array. He could not even cross 100 meters, let alone 1,000 meters. Lu Ming then found 2 chains on the left and right sides of the deep pit. Could it be that I crossed through these 2 chains? Lu Ming pondered. Thud, thud, thud. At that moment, there was a rush of footsteps. Then, more than 20 youths from the Serene Demon Hall appeared. The leader was the tall youth, Yu Feisher. When Yu Feisher saw Lu Ming, he immediately roared, "Brat, senior brother Feiyu said that you killed many disciples of the Serene Demon Hall. How dare you kill disciples of the Serene Demon Hall? You're courting death." Then, together with the tall youth, the 21 youths rushed toward Lu Ming. Each of the 21 youths exuded a powerful aura. Especially the leader, Yu Feisher, whose aura was extremely terrifying. Early stage of the martial ancestor realm. Lu Ming frowned. Yu Feisher's cultivation had reached the early stage of the martial ancestor realm. The other 3 youths had reached the peak of the martial ancestor realm. Their auras were even stronger than Fei Yuan's. Lu Ming did not doubt that each of them was a Battle 3 genius. Other than these 4 people, the remaining dozen or so people were not weak either. 21 people quickly closed in on Lu Ming. "Death, brat!" Yu Feisher revealed a sinister smile as a brilliant sword light shot towards Lu Ming. There was no doubt that his terrifying attack power was displayed. He was definitely a Battle 3 genius. Don't take it head-on. Lu Ming's mind raced. An early-stage martial ancestor realm 8th-layer martial ancestor realm cultivator, in addition to the triple battle genius, had surpassed him in terms of battle prowess. If he were to take the attack head-on, he would be at a disadvantage. Lu Ming's figure flashed, trying to avoid the sword light. Chi-chi, in the next moment, the sound of air being torn apart was heard as dozens of sword lights enveloped him. 9 dragons stomping the heavens. Lu Ming took a step forward, and space trembled. Bang! Bang! More than a dozen sword lights instantly shattered, but there were still a few sword lights that stubbornly held on and continued to slash towards Lu Ming. Lu Ming's figure flashed continuously. Poochie! There was still a sword light that hit him, leaving a sword wound on his chest that was bleeding profusely. Underworld demonic life and death sword. Die! Yu Feisher shouted as he slashed out with his sword. 1 black and 1 white sword light shot out, enveloping Lu Ming. There was no way to avoid it. This sword had completely locked onto Lu Ming, and there was no way to avoid it. Heaven's Path Palm. Lu Ming struck out with his palm, and a huge palm print blasted forward. Bang! First, it was the black sword light that emitted a sharp killing intent that collided with the Heaven's Path palm print. With a loud boom, the black sword light dissipated, but the Heaven's Path palm print was also pierced through. The white sword light flashed and continued to attack Lu Ming. Block it! His long spear shook, and the spear light shot out like a dragon. Boom! The spear light and sword chi swept out in all directions. The demon-banishing spear in Lu Ming's hand actually bent, and an extremely powerful force surged towards Lu Ming. Lu Ming's body involuntarily retreated. Behind him was the deep pit that contained the tricolored primordial fire. Lu Ming's body floated out of the platform, and his body was suspended in the air. Below him, a scorching aura surged up. At the critical moment, Lu Ming waved his hand, and a chain formed from true chi wrapped around the iron chains on both sides of the deep pit. Still want to struggle? Die! Yu Feisher slashed out a few more sword chi, aiming at Lu Ming's true chi chain. Poochie! The true chi chain was cut apart, and Lu Ming's body fell rapidly into the deep pit. You dare to kill someone from the Serene Demon Palace, and you'll be buried in a sea of fire. Consider yourself lucky. Yu Feisher watched as Lu Ming's body disappeared into the sea of fire, and he sneered. The tricolored primordial fire's temperature was terrifying. It was dozens or even hundreds of times stronger than ordinary flames. Lu Ming used his true chi to block it, but it was useless. His true chi began to burn. One should know that he cultivated the true chi of the true dragon of combat arts, which was much stronger than ordinary true chi. If he could not block it, ordinary true qi would be burned to ashes in an instant. Even so, Lu Ming could not hold on for long. Endless tricolored primordial fire burned fiercely in all directions, and it was extremely hot. Lu Ming's true qi was rapidly depleted, and some parts of his true qi were even burned through. The scorching flames surged in, and Lu Ming's body made sizzling sounds. If his body had not reached rank 6 upper tier, he would have been burned to a crisp. What should I do? If this goes on, I'll die. Lu Ming's mind raced as he tried to think of a way to escape. It was difficult to fly here. Lu Ming's body kept falling, and the lower he fell, the stronger the tricolored primordial fire became. If this went on, he would not be able to hold on for long. At this moment, something strange happened. Lu Ming's glabella glowed, and something suddenly rushed out. It's the stone egg. Lu Ming was shocked. Wasn't the stone egg that had rushed out of his glabella the heaven gate in the Qianjiang water region? He could sense a weak life aura from this stone egg. However, Lu Ming had used all kinds of methods but could not make this stone egg react at all. Lu Ming had thought that this was a useless egg. But now, the stone egg had rushed out of the Temple of Paragon. Most importantly, he had placed the stone egg in the Temple of Paragon, and the stone egg had rushed out of the Temple of Paragon on its own. This was incredible. Buzz! The stone egg flew out and floated above Lu Ming's head. It shook slightly, and immediately, a cool aura spread out and enveloped Lu Ming. Immediately, Lu Ming felt that the flames around him had retreated, and he felt cool all over, without any heat. Although he was still falling, the tricolored primordial fire could no longer hurt him. His body continued to fall, and in the blink of an eye, he had fallen a few thousand meters. Suddenly, the surroundings changed, and Lu Ming rushed out of the tricolored primordial fire's area. Dozens of meters below, Lu Ming saw the ground. He flew down and landed on the ground. He looked up, and there seemed to be a barrier dozens of meters above, blocking the tricolored primordial fire. Where is this? Then, Lu Ming looked around. Chapter 394. He found that the ground under his feet was not ordinary ground, but a kind of metal. It was a dark red metal with strange patterns engraved on it. The whole ground was made of this metal. Lu Ming walked to the side. After about 600 meters, he saw a wall. The wall was also made of this metal with patterns of flowers and plants engraved on it. Clang! Lu Ming took out a level 4 battle saber from a storage ring and slashed at the metal wall. The battle saber shook and bounced away. There was not even a mark on the metal wall. This can't be an alchemy furnace, right? Suddenly, Lu Ming had a bold guess. The whole deep pit and the surrounding metal walls made Lu Ming think of an alchemy furnace. An alchemy furnace with a diameter of more than 1,000 meters and a depth of several thousand meters. At the thought of this, Lu Ming gasped a breath of cold air. What kind of elixir was such a huge alchemy furnace used to refine? Buzz! At this time, the stone egg shook and flew in a direction. Lu Ming just realized that there was still this stone egg. Just now, Lu Ming's attention was attracted and he forgot about the stone egg. This time, the stone egg seemed to have come to life like a living creature, which made Lu Ming very surprised. He had spent a lot of effort before, but there was no movement at all. Is there something here that attracted the stone egg? Thinking of this, Lu Ming chased after it. When he came to the center of the deep pit, the stone egg soared into the sky. The surface of the stone egg was filled with a strange aura, and the tricolored true fire actually avoided it. The tricolored true fire avoided it, and a vacuum area was revealed. A golden elixir the size of a longan was suspended there. Lu Ming's eyes almost popped out. There was actually an elixir here. Moreover, this elixir looked too extraordinary. It was golden all over, like the legendary Great Tao Golden Elixir. On the surface of the elixir, there were real dragons and divine phoenixes flying around. It was very mysterious. Most importantly, Lu Ming felt that this pill contained an endless amount of energy essence. It was definitely a supreme treasure pill. Could it be that such a large pill furnace was used to refine this pill? Could it be that the stone egg's abnormality was also due to this pill? Obviously, the answer was yes. The stone egg crazily rushed to the side of the pill. Its round body was actually trembling slightly, as if it was excited. Then, a crack suddenly appeared on the stone egg. Like a mouth, it swallowed the golden pill in one gulp. Lu Ming was dumbfounded. Then, he wailed, "No, at least leave some for me." His cries were incomparably miserable. That pill was clearly a supreme treasure pill. Who knew how many years had passed, but its spiritual essence was still intact. From this point alone, one could tell how terrifying it was. If he took it out, it would definitely be worth a lot. But now, it had been swallowed by the stone egg. Wastrel! Lu Ming roared. Kacha kacha! The stone egg chewed on the pill as if it was eating candy. Kacha kacha sounds could be heard. At the next moment, Lu Ming saw traces of golden powder floating down from the stone egg. This was a trace of residue accidentally leaked out when it was chewing the pill. These fragments also rippled with powerful spiritual essence fluctuations. I can't waste it. Lu Ming gritted his teeth. He controlled the 9 dragons' bloodline, opened his mouth, and instantly sucked the residue into his mouth. Boom! Boom! When the residue was sucked into his mouth, Lu Ming felt as if thousands of volcanoes had erupted all of a sudden. Endless energy essence burst out, and the 9 dragons' bloodline swelled up like a balloon, almost bursting. Endless energy crazily swept over. It was really too powerful. Lu Ming was almost scared to death. He then shouted, "Refine, refine for me." He controlled the 9 dragons' bloodline and frantically tried his best to refine it. Huff huff, the 9 dragons' bloodline was 100 meters long in the shape of a flood dragon. At that moment, it had turned into a fat worm that had become round and bulging. A vast amount of energy surged into Lu Ming's body. This energy was extremely pure. There was almost no need to refine it, and it was converted into genuine qi. The cyclone in his dantian spun crazily. Lu Ming's cultivation started to soar crazily. Originally, Lu Ming's cultivation had reached the early 6th stage of the martial ancestor realm. Now, it was rising rapidly. In a few breaths' time, he had reached the late 6th stage of the martial ancestor realm. However, he had no intention of stopping and continued to soar. No, the energy is too strong. I can't convert it in time. Lu Ming realized that the speed of his cultivation was not as fast as the speed of the energy surging into his body. The majestic energy brought great pressure to his physical body and meridians. It was as if they were about to explode. Absorb, the bloodline is also absorbing. Lu Ming did not care anymore. He controlled the 9 dragons' bloodline and frantically absorbed the energy. With the absorption of the bloodline, the pressure on Lu Ming's body finally decreased. However, the speed of his cultivation was still terrifying. In just 1 minute, Lu Ming's cultivation had reached the peak of the 6th stage of the martial ancestor realm. Roar! At that moment, the 9 dragons' bloodline roared and 3 silver chakras appeared on his body. Level 3 King Class Bloodline. The 9 dragons' bloodline had leveled up. Lu Ming was overjoyed. This elixir might contain the blood essence of a supreme being. Otherwise, the 9 dragons' bloodline would not be able to level up. Lu Ming pondered. That was because ordinary energy could not level up the bloodline. However, this was a good thing. When the 9 dragons' bloodline leveled up, the devouring and refining power would be stronger and the refining speed would be faster. Boom! 2 minutes later, Lu Ming's body shook and the cyclone spun crazily. 7th stage of the martial ancestor realm. In just a few minutes, Lu Ming's cultivation had increased by an entire level. This was simply unbelievable. However, it was not over yet. It was still going on. Roar! After a while, the 9 dragons' bloodline roared again and another silver chakra appeared on his body. Level 4 King Class Bloodline. The Nine Dragons bloodline had leveled up again. If this was seen by others, they would probably be scared to death. Whoosh! Whoosh! After leveling up twice, the Nine Dragons bloodline finally withstood the pressure. Although its body was still round, it was no longer in danger of exploding. The leveling up continued. The early stage of the 7th stage of the Martial Ancestor Realm, the middle stage of the 7th stage of the Martial Ancestor Realm. Before long, Lu Ming's cultivation had reached the peak of the 7th stage of the Martial Ancestor Realm. At that moment, the Nine Dragons bloodline had leveled up again and reached the 5th stage of the King class. It's time to level up the second bloodline. Lu Ming had an idea. He began to control the Nine Dragons bloodline and transfer a large amount of energy to the second bloodline. Lu Ming always felt that the second bloodline was extraordinary. There was a huge stone tablet with fog on it. There seemed to be words on it, but they could not be seen clearly. Lu Ming repeatedly tried to comprehend something from the stone tablet, but he always felt that he was blocked by a mysterious force and could not comprehend it. Now, the second bloodline could only enhance Lu Ming's strength and defense. Chapter 395. Lu Ming was looking forward to the second bloodline because it was awakened in his body, unlike the Nine Dragons bloodline, which was awakened with the Nine Dragons blood essence. With the influx of surging energy, the chakra of the second bloodline shone brighter and brighter. The energy of the Nine Dragons bloodline was about to be exhausted. A few more minutes passed. The second bloodline vibrated and made a buzzing sound. On the basis of the original 4 silver chakras, the 5th chakra was condensed. The second bloodline was promoted to the 5th tier of the King class. When the second bloodline was promoted to the 5th tier of the King class, the fog on the stone tablet seemed to have faded a little. However, the words on the stone tablet could not be seen clearly. He could only vaguely make out that there were 3 words. At this moment, there was a roar in Lu Ming's body. An extremely powerful aura soared into the sky and made a big hole in the 3-colored genuine fire above his head. The 8th tier of the martial arts Grandmaster realm. Lu Ming broke through and reached the early stage of the 8th tier of the martial arts Grandmaster realm. At this time, the energy of the elixir residue was finally completely refined. Whoosh! Lu Ming opened his eyes and 2 beams of light shot out from his eyes and shot hundreds of meters away. The 8th tier of the martial arts Grandmaster realm is too powerful. Lu Ming was overjoyed when he felt that the genuine qi in his body was more than 10 times stronger than before. Not only that, but even the 2 bloodlines were continuously upgraded and reached the 5th tier of the King class. This saved Lu Ming a lot of blood essence. Moreover, the Nine Dragons bloodline had upgraded by 3 levels and its devouring power was more than 10 times stronger. When it was used, the effect on others would be greatly enhanced. What kind of elixir is that? Its efficacy is too terrifying. It's just a little residue, but it can make my cultivation and bloodline improve crazily. How terrifying would it be if it was a whole elixir? Thinking of this, Lu Ming hurriedly looked up. A stone egg the size of a human head floated in the air, emitting an intense light. What was different from before was that the stone egg was now emitting a dense life force. It was not like before, when there was only a sliver of life force. What kind of egg is this? It can refine a whole elixir. This is too terrifying. Lu Ming shouted in his heart. He had only refined a small amount of residue and he almost exploded. If he were to consume the entire elixir, he had no doubt that he would explode instantly. However, the stone egg could refine the whole elixir, which was really strange. The vitality in the stone egg was getting stronger and stronger. What on earth is inside? Is it going to hatch? Lu Ming thought to himself as he looked at the stone egg with anticipation. Unfortunately, he was disappointed. After the stone egg emitted a burst of bright light, it quickly quieted down to the stone egg. He didn't even hatch the pill. He refined an entire pill, and yet he didn't show off. Lu Ming was dumbfounded. At this moment, the stone egg floated down slowly and landed in front of Lu Ming. Lu Ming stretched out his hand and tried to lift it, but it did not budge. Why is it so heavy? To the stone egg. Isn't this too heavy? Previously, it was only about 1,000,000 kilograms. Now, it's at least 10 million kilograms. Lu Ming was shocked. What kind of egg is this? It's unbelievably heavy. Keep. Lu Ming wanted to keep the stone egg in the Temple of Paragon, but the stone egg didn't move in his hand. No way. I can't keep it. Lu Ming was speechless. He continued to try, but gave up after a while. He could keep it in the Temple of Paragon before, but now, he couldn't even keep it in the Temple of Paragon, let alone a storage ring. It was useless. Don't tell me that I'm going to have to carry this stone egg that weighs tens of thousands of kilograms everywhere in the future. Then I'll die of exhaustion. Lu Ming widened his eyes and stared at the stone egg. He was speechless. But he couldn't bear to throw the stone egg away. The stone egg was too strange. Lu Ming couldn't bear to throw it away. Buzz! At that moment, the stone egg in Lu Ming's hand moved. It shone faintly and flew a few rounds in the air. At the same time, the stone egg shrunk rapidly. In the end, it shrunk to the size of a fingertip and landed on a strand of hair beside Lu Ming's ear. It hung on his hair and swayed. He couldn't feel its weight at all. This works too. Lu Ming's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. After a while, he was overjoyed. This was good too. It solved a big problem for him. Now, people from the Serene Demon Palace, wait for me. Lu Ming looked up with bright eyes. Immediately, Lu Ming walked to the side of the pill furnace and climbed up along the pill furnace wall. There was an inscription array here, so he couldn't fly. Lu Ming climbed up along the wall like an ape. When he entered the three-colored primordial fire, the stone egg on his hair shone faintly and a cool feeling spread throughout his body. The three-colored primordial fire had no effect on Lu Ming. Soon, Lu Ming passed through the flames and returned to the platform. There was no one there. The people from the Serene Demon Palace must have entered the passage ahead along the two chains. Lu Ming moved. He stepped on the chains and rushed to the opposite side. When he reached the opposite side, he rushed forward. After a few miles, Lu Ming felt his body lighten. The pressure around him disappeared and Lu Ming could fly again. Whoosh! Lu Ming's speed increased by dozens of times and he rushed forward. In a few breaths, he rushed through the long passage. In front of him, there was a shout. Quick, quick, dig up these spirit herbs. Some of them are extinct in the outside world. If we bring them back to the sect to sell, they will be invaluable. A rough voice was heard. It was the voice of the tall youth from the Serene Demon Palace. Whoosh! Lu Ming rushed out and a wide grassland came into view. The grassland was hundreds of acres wide and there were all kinds of spirit herbs on it. At a glance, there were level 1, level 2, level 3, and all the way to level 4 spirit herbs. There were all kinds of them and they were full of vitality. Some of them were strange and Lin Fan had never seen them before. Medicinal field, this was a real medicinal field. However, there were no traces of level 5 spirit herbs. It's you. Lu Ming rushed out and naturally alarmed the people from the Serene Demon Palace. More than 20 pairs of eyes looked at Lu Ming. When they saw Lu Ming, they were stunned. Kid, you fell into the three-colored primordial fire and you didn't die. Yu Feisher exclaimed in disbelief. If you didn't die, how could I? Lu Ming smiled faintly and his eyes turned cold. Ha, kid, I don't know if I should call you stupid or brainless. I don't know what method you used to escape from the three-colored primordial fire, but since you escaped, you didn't take the opportunity to escape. Instead, you came here to die. You're the only one in the world. Yu Feisher laughed loudly. His tone was filled with disdain. Laugh all you want. You're about to die. There's no harm in laughing a little longer. Lu Ming smiled coldly. Kid, you're the one who's about to die. Clang! With a cold shout, a sword light slashed at Lu Ming. Chapter 396. Other than Euphasor, he was one of the most powerful experts from the Serene Demon's Hall. He was at the peak of the martial arts Grandmaster realm and a triple battle talent. He was even more powerful than Fei Yuan. As the sword radiance flashed, the space trembled. First one. Lu Ming muttered. He moved his hand and his genuine chi formed a long spear. He thrust it at his opponent. Bam! As the long spear swept past, the sword radiance collapsed like a piece of tofu. The spear hit the expert hard. Bam! In an instant, the expert's eyeballs popped out. Before he could even scream, his body exploded. His flesh and bones were stimulated by the force and pierced through the experts from the Serene Demon's Hall. How could this be? Watch out! The people from the Serene Demon's Hall were shocked. Then, chaos ensued. Their genuine chi exploded to block the flesh and bones that were piercing through them. Poof! Poof! It was as if bullets had hit their bodies. Instantly, more than a dozen disciples from the Serene Demon's Hall who were weaker had bloody holes in their bodies. They fell to the ground and screamed. How could this be? Euphasor shouted in disbelief. He had killed a triple battle talent who was at the peak of the martial arts Grandmaster realm in one move and severely injured more than a dozen experts. How could this be possible? Even he could not do it. I have to thank you for this. Under the three-colored genuine fire, I had a fortuitous encounter and my cultivation soared. Lu Ming looked at Euphasor and said with a faint smile. No, it's impossible. Euphasor shouted. He could not accept this. He had wanted to kill Lu Ming, but instead, he had helped Lu Ming and allowed him to have a fortuitous encounter. How could there be such a thing in the world? When he thought of this, he was so depressed that he wanted to go crazy. Die! Lu Ming shouted coldly. Boom! His figure moved, and he took a step forward. 9 dragon sky-stomping steps. An unimaginable force exploded from Lu Ming's feet. Block it! Block it for me! Euphasor roared and joined forces with the remaining 5 or 6 people to block with all their might. However, everything was in vain under Lu Ming's attack. Bam! Bam! Bang! Apart from Euphasor, the other disciples of the Serene Devil Palace screamed as their bodies exploded, including those who were injured. Roar! The bloodline of the 9 dragons flew out and devoured everyone's essence blood. Euphasor's situation was not much better. Under Lu Ming's attack, many of his bones were broken. He lay on the ground like a pile of mud. Ah, how could this be? Euphasor roared, finding it hard to bear. Lu Ming actually killed him because of his fortuitous encounter. This was simply too laughable. He really wanted to roar at the sky and ask the heavens why they were treating him like this. What's your name? You can go now. Lu Ming coldly said. With a flick of his finger, a spear light flew out and pierced Euphasor's throat. Lu Ming was now in the early stage of the 8th realm of the martial ancestor realm. He was close to being a Battle 5 genius. Killing Euphasor and the others was as easy as cutting grass. After killing Euphasor, Shaochen devoured his essence blood and put away the storage ring of the Netherworld Demon Palace disciple. Then, Lu Ming looked around. There were all kinds of spiritual herbs in the herb field. However, they were all level 1, level 2, and level 3 spiritual herbs. The highest was level 4. Although there were some rare spiritual herbs, they were too low level and were not of much use to Lu Ming. Why aren't there any level 5 spiritual herbs? Lu Ming pondered. Then, he took out Euphasor's storage ring and looked at it. He was overjoyed. There were more than a dozen level 5 spiritual herbs in Euphasors' storage ring. They emitted a strong medicinal fragrance. It was not that there were no level 5 spiritual herbs here, but that they had been dug up by Euphasor and the others. After taking another look at those low-level spirit herbs, Lu Ming began to pluck some of the level 4 spirit herbs. As for the low-level spiritual herbs, Lu Ming could not be bothered to pick them up. Even if there were less of them in the outside world, Lu Ming was not an inscription master and did not know how to plant them. After digging them up, they would probably die. After plucking the level 4 spirit herb, Lu Ming's figure moved and he headed forward. There was a passage at the end of the herb field. Lu Ming rushed into the passage and disappeared. At this time, in the depths of the ruin, there was a huge bronze palace. The gates of the bronze palace were tightly shut. At the entrance, there were 4 small statues of the azure dragon, white tiger, vermilion bird, and black tortoise. They were about 1 meter tall. At this time, there were more than 100 people gathered in front of the bronze statues. Han Liumu, Yi Tiannan, Wu Hui, and the others were among them. But at this time, they were in a sorry state. Especially Han Liumu, Yi Tiannan, and the others. There were many injuries on their bodies. Their auras were weak and their faces were pale. The 3 factions originally had more than 100 people, but now there were only a few dozen people left. The others were all disciples of the Serene Demon Palace in black robes. They surrounded Han Liumu and the others. "Yu Feiyu, we've given you the key to this ruin. Now, can you let us go?" Han Liumu looked at the leader of the Serene Demon Palace. This person was the strongest disciple of the Serene Demon Palace, Yu Feiyu. "Let you go. There are only 3 of the 4 symbols keys. We're still missing the white tiger key. Before the 4 keys are gathered, don't even think about leaving." Yu Feiyu sneered. "We've already said that the white tiger key is not with us." Han Liumu gritted his teeth. "I don't care about that. You came in together. Without the 4 keys, you can't enter the bronze palace. Stay here obediently," Yu Feiyu said indifferently. His tone was unquestionable. "Damn it, Yu Feiyu, don't go too far. You've already killed so many of our people. Now that we've given you the keys, you want to go back on your words?" Yi Tiannan roared. "Huh." Yu Feiyu sneered. His eyes were filled with mockery. "So what if I'm bullying you? Can you resist? In this world, the weak have no right to speak. Right now, your fates are in my hands. Whether I let you go or not depends on my mood. Do you understand?" Yu Feiyu looked down at Han Liumu, Yi Tiannan, and the others. His tone was filled with arrogance. "Kiki," Han Liumu gritted his teeth. His eyes were bloodshot. Humiliation. Incomparable humiliation filled their hearts. They were on the verge of exploding. However, they knew that if they resisted, they would die. Thus, they could only endure it. Yu Feiyu glanced at Han Liumu and the others. Then, he looked at the passage on the left and frowned. Yu Feiyu still hadn't arrived. This made him somewhat unhappy. "What's wrong with Yu Feiyu? He took so long to deal with a small fry. This guy is getting more and more unreliable." A big-nosed youth beside Yu Feiyu said. "Maybe he's delayed by something." Another person said. "Could he have been killed?" "Hee, senior brother Feiyu, let me go check the situation." Chapter 397. N. Yu Feiyu nodded and ordered, "Junior Fei, go and check the situation. Find Junior Feiyu and tell him to bring the white tiger key to meet us." "Yes." The big-nosed young man cupped his fists and was about to leave. At this moment, a voice rang out, "No need. Your junior brothers won't be able to come." "Who is it?" Yu Fei shouted coldly. Yu Feiyu and the others couldn't help but look at the passage on the left. A young man who was not even 20 years old walked out. "Lu Ming. Brother Lu." Han Liumu, Yi Tiannan, and the others exclaimed when they saw the young man. This young man was Lu Ming. He followed the passage in the herb field and arrived here. When he arrived, he heard the conversation between Yu Feiyu and the others. "It's you. Kid, you're still alive?" The big-nosed young man shouted coldly. "Nonsense, of course I'm still alive. Are you blind?" Lu Ming curled his lips and reprimanded. You! The big-nosed young man's breathing stagnated and his eyes flashed with killing intent. Kid, it seems like you Fei Shi and the others didn't find you and let you escape. However, you came here. This is your fate. No one can save you. Hurry up and hand over the white tiger key. I'll give you a quick death. The big-nosed young man scolded with a haughty expression. There was a big guy who was as arrogant as you. In the end, I sent him on his way. It seems like I'll have to send you on your way too. Lu Ming smiled faintly, murderous intent flashing in his eyes. What? You killed Yu Fei Shi? Shameless boasting. I'd like to see how strong you are. The big-nosed young man stepped forward and his sword flashed. A cold sword light slashed towards Lu Ming's head. It was as fast as lightning. 8th stage martial ancestor realm. This big-nosed young man was no weaker than Yu Fei Shi. With a flick of his finger, the demon banishing spear appeared in his hand. Just as Lu Ming was about to sweep out with his spear, at this moment, the stone egg hanging in his hair suddenly flew out and turned into the size of a human head. It ignored the sword light and sword aura, rushed past it, and smashed into the big-nosed young man's face. It just so happened to hit the big-nosed young man's nose. Gotcha! The big-nosed young man screamed and fell to the ground. Whoosh! The stone egg flew back and floated in front of Lu Ming, bouncing back and forth like a mischievous rubber ball. He seemed to be extremely excited. This! Lu Ming was tongue-tied and dumbfounded. Yu Feiyu, Han Liumu, and the others were dumbfounded. Is this even possible? What kind of stone is this? Lu Ming threw out a stone, and it actually injured the big-nosed youth with a single strike. What kind of treasure was this? At this moment, the big-nosed young man was lying on the ground, screaming in agony. His face was covered in blood, and the area around his nose had completely caved in. Even his facial features could not be seen clearly. Everyone broke out in cold sweat. How pitiful! This stone egg! Lu Ming's eyes lit up. He stretched out his hand, wanting to grab the stone egg. Unexpectedly, the stone egg was very lively. It jumped a few times in the air and landed on Lu Ming's shoulder. Lu Ming did not feel any weight at all. This stone egg is so lively. What is it? Lu Ming was even more curious. He suddenly felt that the pill had not been wasted. Attack together. Be careful of that stone egg. Yu Feiyu gave the order, looking at the stone egg on Lu Ming's shoulder with a grave expression. He was not confident that he could defeat the big-nosed young man with a single strike. Whoosh! Whoosh! With a flash, the disciples of the Netherworld Demon Palace surrounded Lu Ming and looked at the stone egg with fear. None of them wanted to be hit like that. As for Lu Ming, they instinctively ignored him. As for Han Liumu and the others, their eyes flickered with hope. They had already given up hope. Even though Lu Ming had arrived, they did not have much hope. They knew that Lu Ming's combat strength was about the same as theirs. It was impossible for him to be a match for the experts of the Netherworld Demon Palace. However, they did not expect that Lu Ming would throw out a stone egg and defeat the big-nosed young man with a single strike. This gave them hope. The stone egg on his shoulder glowed. Whoosh! Suddenly, the stone egg flew out again and smashed toward a 7th-stage martial ancestor realm genius. That genius was shocked. He roared and unleashed his full strength. His bloodline power and true chi erupted as he set up a dozen defenses. However, it was useless. Bang! The stone egg instantly passed through the defenses and smashed into the young man's head. The young man screamed as his head cracked open like a watermelon. He fell to the ground and died. A one-hit kill. Everyone sucked in a cold breath. Especially the disciples of the Netherworld Demon Palace. Their faces were filled with fear. Even Yu Feiyu was shocked and fearful. Whoosh! After killing one of them, the stone egg flew back to Lu Ming's shoulder and jumped around excitedly. Let's attack together. That stone egg can only deal with one person at a time. Let's attack together and kill this bastard. Then, the stone egg will become an ownerless object and we won't be afraid of it. Yu Feiyu shouted. Kill! Kill! 70 to 80 disciples of the Netherworld Demon Palace charged toward Lu Ming. Instantly, 70 to 80 rays of sword chi surrounded Lu Ming from all directions. The space around them boiled and was stirred up by the sword chi. The power of 70 to 80 geniuses attacking at the same time was too shocking. Then, all of you can die. Lu Ming's eyes were filled with killing intent. Boom! Boom! Lu Ming's second bloodline power was unleashed, greatly increasing his strength. At the same time, the Nine Dragons' bloodline power flew out and opened its mouth to roar. A terrifying devouring power erupted and enveloped the disciples of the Netherworld Demon Palace. Suddenly, not good. My bloodline power is leaving my body. My essence blood is unstable. It's going to rush out of my body. The disciples of the Netherworld Demon Palace screamed in fear. In an instant, the sword chi became chaotic. Now that Lu Ming's cultivation had improved greatly and his Nine Dragons' bloodline power had risen by 3 levels, how terrifying was his devouring power. Those whose cultivation levels were lower than Lu Ming's were almost unable to control their bloodline power and were sucked out of their bodies. They were unable to unleash much of their combat strength. 9 dragons stomping the sky. At that moment, Lu Ming executed the 9 dragons stomping the sky steps. Boom! The entire space trembled. Then, bam! Bam! The disciples of the Netherworld Demon Palace exploded like rotten potatoes. Drops of essence blood flew into the mouth of the 9 dragons' bloodline power. 81 people. With this stomp, 81 people were killed. Only Yu Feiyu and 3 other disciples of the Netherworld Demon Palace were still alive. The 3 of them were all martial ancestor realm 8 and above, but they were half dead. Even Yu Feiyu was in the same state. He was the number 1 genius of the Netherworld Demon Palace. His cultivation level had reached the mid-stage martial ancestor realm 8 and his combat strength had surpassed that of the 3 battle geniuses. However, under Lu Ming's stomp, he was still severely injured. He knelt on the ground and vomited blood. How could this be? How could this be? Yu Feiyu screamed hysterically as if he had gone mad. He found it hard to accept this. With one move, the most elite disciples of the Netherworld Demon Palace were all killed. How could he be so powerful? Chapter 398. Could it be that Lu Ming had been hiding his strength all this time? Yu Feiyu felt like he was dreaming. Brother, let me go. Please let me go. I can give you everything I have. Yu Feiyu cried out. He didn't want to die. He didn't want to die at all. He was the strongest among the younger generation of the Serene Devil Hall, and he would definitely inherit the position of Hall Master of the Serene Devil Hall in the future. He would become the overlord of a large region, ruling over vast mountains and rivers, millions of citizens, and countless beauties. He could get whatever he wanted. With such a great future in front of him, how could he be willing to die? Compared to his life, what was face? Let you go. After I kill you, won't your belongings be mine? Lu Ming sneered. No, don't kill me. I know of a treasure. As long as you let me go, I'll tell you the location of the treasure. Yu Feiyu cried out. On the side, Han Liumu, Yi Tiannan, and the others watched this scene with complicated feelings. Yu Feiyu, who was high and mighty and controlled their lives, was now begging for mercy in front of Lu Ming like a dog. How quickly the world changed, it was truly miraculous. This was the change brought about by strength. In the martial world, the strong were supreme. Only the strong could rule over everything. It was no wonder that most cultivators wanted to increase their cultivation, not hesitating to take risks. Treasure? Lu Ming's eyes flashed. Then tell me the location of the treasure first. Promise to let me go first, then I'll tell you the location of the treasure. Yu Feiyu cried out, his eyes flickering. Seeing that Lu Ming seemed to be interested in the treasure, his heart was filled with hope. He was thinking about how to negotiate with Lu Ming. But in the next moment, whoosh! A spear light shot out, piercing through Yu Feiyu's heart. The powerful energy crushed Yu Feiyu's heart. Why? Yu Feiyu cried out in despair. His eyes popped out like a dead fish's, filled with disbelief. Even in his dreams, he couldn't understand why Lu Ming would suddenly want to kill him. Wasn't her heart already moved? Let's not talk about whether what you said is true or not. Even if there is such a treasure, I won't let you go. I don't want to leave behind future troubles because of an unknown treasure. A faint voice sounded from Lu Ming's mouth. Yu Feiyu roared unwillingly and stopped breathing. After that, Lu Ming's figure flickered as he killed the remaining disciples of the Serene Devil Palace. At the same time, he did not let go of any of their storage rings and blood essences. On the side, Han Liumu, Yi Tiannan, and the others were dumbstruck. Brother Lu, thank you for saving me. Han Liumu stepped forward and cupped his fists at Lu Ming in gratitude. Nothing. I was just passing by. Lu Ming said indifferently. Then, he walked towards the entrance of the Bronze Palace. Han Liumu and the others watched from behind and didn't follow. Lu Ming walked to the entrance and waved his hand. Instantly, 4 keys appeared in his hand. Lu Ming didn't return them to Han Liumu and the others. He got them from Yu Feiyu, so naturally, they were his spoils of war. He wasn't so kind as to return them to Han Liumu and the others. Buzz! As soon as the 4 keys appeared, they aimed at the 4 statues and flew into their mouths. Crack! The entrance of the Bronze Palace slowly opened, revealing the dark environment inside. Lu Ming did not hesitate. In a flash, he dashed into the door and disappeared. Behind him, Han Liumu, Yi Tiannan, and the others looked at the entrance with uncertain expressions. Brother Han, are we going in? Yi Tiannan asked Han Liumu. Han Liumu's eyes flickered as if he was hesitating. After a while, he sighed and said, "You've all seen Lu Ming's strength. It's unfathomable. I think he was hiding his strength when he fought with the flying ape. He's definitely a peerless monster from some super region. This kind of person's temper is unpredictable. If we go in and make him unhappy, we'll die in his rage." Han Liumu looked at the entrance with fear in his eyes. I agree with Brother Han's opinion. This kind of person isn't someone we can provoke. Let's leave this place. Wu Hui also said. Yi Tiannan sighed. Although he was unwilling, there was nothing he could do. Immediately, Han Liumu and the others left one by one. They went back and searched for treasures along the way. There was a deathly silence in the bronze hall. After Lu Ming rushed into the entrance, he saw a large hall. There were several large alchemy furnaces in the hall. However, these furnaces were all corroded and had lost their spirituality. Lu Ming walked around the hall but found nothing. There was another bronze door at the back of the hall, but it was closed. Lu Ming pushed hard. With a click, the bronze door opened. There was no need for a key. The bronze door opened and Lu Ming walked in. This was a room that looked like a secret room. It was much smaller than the hall. There were 2 shelves on both sides. On the shelves, there were some bottles and jars. In the middle of the room, there was an alchemy furnace. On the side, there was a table. Lu Ming first walked towards the shelves and picked up the bottles and jars. Unfortunately, although there were pills inside, they had turned into ashes under the corrosion of time. All the pills and spirit medicines were useless. Lu Ming was greatly disappointed. He walked toward the table again. On the table, there were 2 things. A box made of unknown material. It was unknown how many years had passed, but it was still intact. Lu Ming picked up the box and opened it to take a look. Suddenly, he was stunned. In the box, there were dozens of crystals. Each of them was about the size of a longan. Moreover, they were divided into many colors. Some were yellow, some were blue, some were red, some were green. The most important thing was that each crystal was emitting a mysterious aura. It was similar to force, but it was many times more mysterious than force. Lu Ming reached out and picked up a fiery red crystal. After carefully examining it, his body trembled slightly. His eyes were filled with ecstasy. This is an ultimacy crystal. This is definitely an ultimacy crystal. Lu Ming almost laughed out loud. He had never imagined that he would be able to find ultimacy crystals here. Moreover, there were dozens of them. An ultimacy crystal was born from the ultimacy of heaven and earth. It would take a long time to produce one. An ultimacy crystal contained a rich intent of heaven and earth. It could be used to comprehend the intent of heaven and earth. After one's force reached perfection, if one used an ultimacy crystal to comprehend intent, one could quickly comprehend true intent. If a martial king used an ultimacy crystal to cultivate, it would greatly speed up the comprehension of intent. It could be said that an ultimacy crystal was a treasure that even a martial king would covet. Ultimacy crystals were divided into various attributes. For example, wind attribute ultimacy crystal, fire attribute ultimacy crystal, thunder attribute ultimacy crystal. However, regardless of the attribute, an ultimacy crystal could be sold for at least 1 billion lower spiritual crystals in the market. Chapter 399. Lu Ming counted carefully. There were a total of 29 ultimacy crystals. I'm rich, I'm rich, I'm rich. Lu Ming's eyes shone brightly. He didn't need anything else. Just these Upanishad crystals were enough to make him rich. Lu Ming closed the box and kept it in the temple of Paragon. Then, Lu Ming picked up the book and flipped it open. This time, Lu Ming was a little disappointed. This was not a cultivation technique manual or a martial technique manual. It was a book about alchemy. It seemed that this ruin was the residence of an alchemy master. Everything about it was related to alchemy. Lu Ming did not know much about the Tao of inscription. After flipping through a few pages, he put it away. Then, he walked toward the alchemy furnace. The alchemy furnace was as tall as a person. It was simple and unadorned. There were various patterns of flowers and plants carved on it. However, it looked black. Although it did not decay like the other alchemy furnaces, it did not seem to have any spirituality. Forget it, I'll keep it first. I might be able to sell it for a good price. Lu Ming smiled and put the alchemy furnace into a storage ring. Lu Ming walked one round and did not find anything. He walked out of the bronze hall and found that Han Liumu and the others were no longer there. Lu Ming smiled and did not mind. He casually chose a path and walked out. After leaving the ruin, Lu Ming did not stay any longer. He turned into a ray of light and flew back to the city. When Lu Ming returned to the city, he heard a piece of shocking news. The Dragon's Cave was opened. Dragon's Cave? Lu Ming was shocked. The Dragon's Cave was said to be the nest of a dragon. A long time ago, a true dragon lived there. It was a very famous magical place in the Dongming ancient battlefield. However, the Dragon's Cave and the surrounding area were all covered by the runes. It could not be opened normally. It was said that even the experts of the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace could not open it. The last time it was opened was a few thousand years ago. Now, it was opened again. That was a peerless land of treasures. It was said that there were countless spiritual herbs and even secret treasures left behind by the true dragon. Everyone's heart was burning with passion. They all left the city and headed towards the Dragon's Cave. Dragon's Cave. We can't miss it. Lu Ming whispered, his eyes shining brightly. He cultivated the true art of the Dragon of War and the 9 Dragons' heaven-stomping steps, awakening the bloodline of the 9 dragons. Everything was related to dragons. Now that he had encountered a dragon's den, how could he miss it? The true dragon battle art had been stuck at the 5th level for a long time, and it was difficult to advance. If he could obtain a treasure related to the true dragon, he might be able to advance to the next level. At that moment, Lu Ming also rose into the air and headed in the direction of the dragon cave. The dragon's den was located in the western part of this place, in a vast mountain range. It was over 1,000,000 li away from this place. Lu Ming sped forward, and when night fell, Lu Ming entered the Supreme Divine Palace. Then, he took out the level 5 elixirs he had obtained from Euphasher and the others. He activated the myriad spirits battle body and began to strengthen his physical body. Lu Ming's physical body improved rapidly again. The next day, Lu Ming continued on his way. Boom! Boom! When Lu Ming passed by a forest, he heard a roar in front of him. There was a battle. Lu Ming moved like a ghost and jumped into the forest. The roar became louder and louder, and Lu Ming quickly approached. He then flew onto a large tree and hid in the leaves, looking forward. Thousands of meters away, more than 100 figures were surrounding a single figure. Jian Fengyan. Lu Ming immediately recognized the figure who was surrounded. It was Jian Fengyan, the genius who was ranked first on the Emperor Cloud leaderboard. And Prince Sky Snake, Blue Cloud, Dao, Yan Feishuan. Lu Ming looked around and saw Prince Sky Snake, Blue Cloud, and the others among the people who had surrounded Jian Fengyan. Not only that, but there were also geniuses from the Thousand River region. Lu Ming saw Li Qiushui, Jiang Chun, and a young man who was ranked 18th in the Thousand River region and had left a scar on Jian Fengyan's face. There were also many experts from the Thousand River region that Lu Ming did not know. Jian Fengyan, I advise you to stop struggling. Today, you will die. Prince Sky Snake sneered. Sky Snake, you are despicable. How dare you join the Thousand River region and become their lackeys? I, Jian Fengyan, am ashamed to be with you. Jian Fengyan shouted angrily. At this moment, there were more than 10 wounds on his body that were dripping with blood. Jian Fengyan, don't be so harsh with your words. This is called a wise man submits to circumstances. The geniuses of the Thousand River domain all have the potential of dragons and phoenixes. They are all peerless geniuses. How can we compare to them? Jian Fengyan, if you surrender now, I can help you ask for mercy and spare your life. Prince Sky Snake shouted. Prince Sky Snake was arrogant and thought that he was a rare genius. However, after entering the Dongming ancient battlefield, he realized that he was wrong. There were too many geniuses. Any one of them was not weaker than him, and there were many who were stronger than him. Especially when they encountered the experts of the Thousand River region, he immediately surrendered. Of course, Blue Cloud Dao, Yan Feishuan, and the others also surrendered. As the lackeys of the Thousand River region, they killed those who did not surrender on the Emperor Yun list and besieged Jian Fengyan. This Sky Snake is quite suitable as a lackey. In the crowd, a young man in a blue robe with a large river embroidered on it smiled faintly. Brother Wan is right. The reason why I did not kill them was because I thought that using them would allow me to better control the Cloud Emperor mountain range. It is better than killing them. With his talent, he appeared to be very respectful when he stood next to this young man. That's right. The young man in blue nodded. At this moment, Jian Fengyan was furious and shouted, Wei Sky Snake, you are shameless and cowardly. Why would I, Jian Fengyan, be afraid of death? You are just a bunch of lackeys. Enough! Young Master Sky Snake shouted angrily. Being called a lackey by Jian Fengyan left and right, young Master Sky Snake's face flushed red. Jian Fengyan, this is all your fault. There's also that bastard Lu Ming. You're blind and audacious. How dare you offend the geniuses of the Qianjiang waters? You're the one who caused all of this. Do you know that? If you had obediently surrendered to the geniuses of the Thousand River region, none of this would have happened today. Young Master Heavenly Snake roared hysterically. That's right, Jian Fengyan. You have only yourselves to blame for this. You failed to recognize Mount Tai, especially that little bastard Lu Ming. He actually dared to injure the elites of the Qianjiang waters. Blue Cloud Dao shouted. Ha ha ha, a group of scum. You're shameless. Back then, I should have killed all of you with Lu Ming. Jian Fengyun laughed loudly. Jian Fengyun, you don't have the chance now. Prepare to die. And that bastard Lu Ming will die sooner or later. You too will accompany him then. Prince Sky Snake sneered. Is that so? I am right here. Let's see how you are going to kill me. Chapter 400. A voice was heard and a figure walked out from a tree step by step. The figure was naturally Lu Ming. Who is it? Everyone's expression changed and hundreds of pairs of eyes looked towards Lu Ming. Lu Ming. Lu Ming, it's you. Young Master Tian Shi, Lan Yundao, and the rest could not help but exclaim when they saw Lu Ming. Ha, Lu Ming, I don't know if you're stupid. You actually dared to walk out on your own. I admire your intelligence. But this is good too, it saves us the trouble of looking for you. Blue Cloud said with joy on his face. Little bastard, are you here to beg for mercy? It's too late to beg for mercy now. How about this, if you agree to be my dog for 20 years, I can ask the supreme talents in Qianjiang Water region to spare your life. Li Qiushui sneered. He looked at Lu Ming with a cold and vicious gaze. He wanted to tear Lu Ming into pieces. He thought that Lu Ming had come out to beg for mercy. However, how could he agree so easily? He wanted to humiliate Lu Ming before he killed him. Where did these retards come from? Lu Ming glanced at Blue Cloud, Li Qiushui and the others and said indifferently. This sentence, coupled with Lu Ming's disdainful expression, almost made Lan Yundao and Li Qiushui's mouths crooked. Courting death, you're courting death. Li Qiushui roared. Lu Ming, hurry up and leave. You must expose Prince Sky Snake, Blue Cloud and the others' shameless actions to the public. Don't let the world be deceived by them. Jian Fengyun shouted. Don't even think about it. Young Master Tian Shi, Lan Yundao and the others' faces fell. What they had done could not be spread out. Otherwise, there would be no place for them in the Cloud Emperor mountain range. Swoosh! Swoosh! Prince Heavenly Snake and Blue Cloud said. Ji Rufeng, Yang Liuji, and the others moved, pouncing towards Lu Ming. But Lu Ming stood there motionlessly with a faint smile on his face. Figures flashed. Young Master Heavenly Snake and 10 odd people surrounded Lu Ming. Ha ha ha, let's see where you can run now. Young Master Sky Snake sneered. Alas! Seeing this, Jian Fengyun let out a long sigh. There was despair in his eyes. Lu Ming was surrounded. Young Master Heavenly Snake and the rest's despicable actions were no longer spread by anyone. Could it be that the Cloud Emperor mountain range would fall into the hands of these people in the future, and then be easily controlled by the Qianjiang Water region? Jian Fengyun was truly unwilling to accept this. Lu Ming, you ran away last time. Let's see how you're going to run this time. Blue Cloud sneered at Lu Ming. Oh? If you have the ability, then come at me. Do you believe that I won't slap you to death? Lu Ming glanced at Blue Cloud and said. Lu Ming, don't be arrogant. See how I'll kill you. Lan Yundao shouted with a confident look on his face. Boom! A powerful aura rose from Blue Cloud's body. Early stage martial ancestor realm 7th realm. During this period, Blue Cloud's cultivation had made another breakthrough and reached the early stage martial ancestor realm 7th realm. It was no wonder that he was so confident. Lu Ming, die. I'll kill you like killing a chicken. Blue Cloud laughed. Blue light burst out from his body and a resplendent saber light slashed towards Lu Ming. He was indeed much more powerful than before. Everyone in the Qianjiang Water region sneered and gloated. But in the face of such a saber light, Lu Ming remained motionless. Don't tell me you're stunned after seeing Blue Cloud's breakthrough. Young Master Heavenly Snake laughed softly. Die, Lu Ming. Go to hell. Yang Liuji roared. He was about to see Lu Ming die in front of him and he felt extremely comfortable. Ever since he met Lu Ming in the remains of Imperial Yun Palace, he had been suppressed by Lu Ming. He had always hoped that Lu Ming would die. Now, his wish was finally going to come true. Swoosh! The blue saber light was like a blue gem. It was crystal clear and powerful. It was about to hit Lu Ming's head. At that moment, Lu Ming moved. What was even more shocking was that he actually slapped out. Bam! A slap landed on the blue blade light. The blue blade light was like a bunch of fragile bubbles, bursting with a loud bang. Then, the slap didn't stop, slapping towards Lan Yundao's face. Smack! A crisp sound rang out, and Lan Yundao cried out in pain. His body spun a few times in the air under the force of the slap, and then fell heavily to the ground. I. Lan Yundao glared at Lu Ming, his eyes filled with disbelief. The next moment, with a poof, Lan Yundao's body was torn into pieces and fresh blood flowed all over the ground. Dead! Blue Cloud was dead. He was slapped to death by Lu Ming. This, young Master Tianxi, Yang Liuji, Yan Feishuan, and Li Qiushui stared with their eyes bigger than eggs. Their mouths were wide open. How is this possible? You cheated. You must have cheated. After a while, Yang Liuji reacted and shouted hysterically. Blue Cloud, who was many times stronger than him, was slapped to death by Lu Ming. How could Lu Ming be so strong? He found it hard to accept. On the other side, Feng Xinyu, the blue-robed young man, and the other geniuses of the Qianjiang water region looked solemn. You're just an ant. You're so annoying. I'll send you to accompany him. Lu Ming glanced coldly at Yang Liuji. No. Yang Liuji was horrified. He quickly retreated and was almost scared out of his wits. However, swoosh! A spear radiance burst out and pierced through Yang Liuji's throat. Yang Liuji held his throat tightly. His eyes were filled with unwillingness. In the end, he fell to the ground and stopped breathing. Now, it's your turn. Lu Ming looked at young Master Tianxi, Yan Feishuan, and the others. Young Master Tianxi and the others were shocked. Lu Ming, don't be arrogant. The geniuses of the Qianjiang water region are here. How can you be tolerated? Young Master Tianxi shouted. Lu Ming's combat strength made his heart tremble. Although he was stronger than Blue Cloud, it was impossible for him to kill him with one slap. Lu Ming's combat strength was definitely above his. Kill! I must kill him with the help of the Qianjiang water region. Otherwise, there will be another Jian Fengyun in the Cloud Emperor mountain range. I won't be able to stand out. Young Master Tianxi roared in his heart. He looked at Lu Ming with jealousy in his heart. Qianjiang water region. They won't be able to leave. Lu Ming smiled faintly. However, his words caused an uproar in the Qianjiang water region. What? What does this kid mean? Could it be that he wants to spare our lives? What an arrogant kid. He's a frog at the bottom of a well. He thinks he's invincible just because he has some skills. This kid deserves to die. He dared to talk back to us before entering the Dongming ancient battlefield. We can't let him live. Cold voices were heard in the Qianjiang water region. Even Jian Fengyun was stunned. He did not know what Lu Ming was trying to do. On the other hand, young Master Tianxi, Yan Feishuan, and the others were overjoyed. Lu Ming was really stupid to be so arrogant. They did not need to do anything now. The geniuses of the Qianjiang water region would not let him go. As expected, I'll kill you.